The lights in the council chamber were dimmed, not because of any ceremony, but because half the power grid was being diverted to the shields. Even here, thousands of light years from the danger zone, they could feel it. The Fear Ambassador Chen Wei sat in the far corner of the massive circular room. Her chair was smaller than the others, placed in a section reserved for provisional members. Earth had been part of the Galactic Council for only 3 years. Most of the older races still didn't know how to pronounce human correctly. The hologram at the center of the room showed the devastation. 17 star systems gone, just empty space where civilizations had thrived for millions of years. The Voidborn had eaten them. Not conquered, not destroyed. Eaten. The dark tendril spreading from the galactic core consumed everything they touched, converting matter into nothing. 3 months. High Chancellor Vexlar announced. His forearms trembled as he gestured to the display. 17 systems in 3 months. Our projections show total galactic consumption in 2 standard years. A murmur ran through the chamber. 2,000 species representatives from every corner of the galaxy, and not one of them had an answer. The combined fleet engaged the entity at Korath Station, continued the Chancellor. His voice was hollow. 10 million warships, the Thraxian Empire's finest dreadnoughts, the Crystalline Collective's reality warpers, the Endless Reach's dimension shredders, all of them. He paused. The hologram shifted, showing the battle. It lasted 17 seconds. The fleet simply dissolved, pulled apart at the molecular level by the dark tendrils. No explosions, no final stands, just erasure. We have tried everything, Vexlar said. Every weapon in our arsenal, every tactic our military minds could devise. Nothing slows it. Nothing harms it. It grows stronger with each system it consumes. The Thraxian war leader stood. He was massive, nearly 4 meters tall, covered in ceremonial battle armor that had seen 1,000 real wars. Then we evacuate. As many as we can. We flee to the outer rim, buy ourselves time. Hope the entity stops feeding eventually. Evacuate 2 trillion beings. The Crystalline Collective's speaker chimed, their body ringing like broken glass, across 20,000 light years. With the entity spreading? Impossible. Then we die with dignity, the war leader growled. The chamber erupted into arguments. Some species advocated for evacuation. Others wanted to try fighting again with modified tactics. A few suggested surrendering, though no one knew how to surrender to something that didn't communicate. Chen Wei listened quietly. She had attended dozens of council sessions, always as an observer. Earth was too new, too primitive to contribute to galactic matters. They had only just figured out faster-than-light travel, using technology purchased from a third-rate merchant guild. The galaxy saw humans as children, barely able to walk among the stars. But Chen knew something the galaxy didn't, something they couldn't know because they had been civilized for so long they forgot what desperation meant. We open the floor to any suggestions, Chancellor Vexlar said, his voice defeated. Any ideas from any species will be heard. Chen stood up. Her legs felt shaky, but she kept her face calm. She raised her hand. The chamber slowly quieted. All eyes turned to her. Some species had compound eyes. Others had sensory organs humans didn't have names for. All of them looked confused. The chair recognizes the human delegation, the Chancellor said, surprise clear in his voice. Chen walked to the speaker's platform. It was designed for beings much larger than her. She must have looked like a child at an adult's podium. She didn't care. Earth volunteers 10 men, she said clearly. For a moment there was silence, then laughter. Not from everyone, but enough. The Thraxian war leader's laugh was loudest, a booming sound that echoed through the chamber. 10, he roared. 10 beings? We sent 10 million ships and they were erased. What possible difference could 10 primitives make? Chen didn't flinch. Give us the coordinates. We'll handle the rest. This is absurd, said a representative from the Enlightened Collective. The human species has no advanced military, no reality manipulation technology. They barely understand quantum mechanics. This is either a joke or delusion. Neither, Chen replied. It's a solution. Chancellor Vexlar raised one of his hands for silence. Ambassador Chen, please explain. What can 10 humans accomplish against an entity that consumed our greatest military force? You sent your greatest military force, Chen said. That's your first mistake. You sent conventional forces against an unconventional threat. You sent soldiers trained to fight other soldiers, ships built to fight other ships. But this isn't a war. It's a problem. And humans are very good at solving problems that shouldn't be solvable. Bold words from a species that still has wars on its home planet, the war leader sneered. Exactly, Chen said, and her smile was cold. We still remember how to fight. Really fight. Not according to ancient rules and honored traditions. We fight to win, and we don't stop until we do. The Chancellor considered this. You understand that sending anyone into the consumption zone is a death sentence? Even our most advanced shields fail within hours. We understand, Chen said. And you believe 10 humans can succeed where our billions failed? I don't believe I know. Because you're thinking about this wrong. You're trying to overpower it. Humans learned a long time ago that you don't need to be stronger than your enemy. You need to be smarter, more creative, and more willing to do what others won't. The chamber was silent now. No more laughter. What are you asking from this council? Fexler asked. The coordinates to the entity's core, access to all your research data, one ship, whatever you can spare. After that, stay out of our way. The crystalline speaker chimed in. If you fail, you will have wasted time we don't have. We won't fail, Chen said simply. How can you be certain? Because failure means extinction, and humans don't go extinct. We're too stubborn for that. The Chancellor looked at his advisors. They seemed uncertain. Finally, he turned back to Chen. Very well. The Council accepts Earth's offer. You will be provided with the data and a ship. But understand this, Ambassador. If your 10 men fail, Earth will bear responsibility for false hope in our darkest hour. If we fail, Chen said, there won't be anyone left to blame us. She returned to her seat. The Council continued its session, making evacuation plans, organizing what defensive measures they could. But Chen noticed something. They kept glancing at her. The laughter was gone. In its place was something else. Hope. Desperate, fragile hope. Chen pulled out her communicator and sent an encrypted message to Earth. Just 3 words. Activate Protocol Prometheus. Within an hour, the message reached Earth. Within 6 hours, 10 names were selected. Within a day, those 10 men were briefed. Within a week, they were on their way to the galactic core. The galaxy didn't know what was coming. They thought they were getting 10 primitive warriors on a suicide mission. What they were actually getting was something far more dangerous. They were getting humans who understood that rules only matter if you plan to survive to follow them. They were getting specialists trained in a school called Earth, where survival wasn't just a skill. It was an art form perfected over millions of years. They were getting humanity's answer to the impossible. And the impossible was about to learn why betting against humans was always a mistake. The briefing room was deep underground, beneath 300 meters of reinforced concrete and steel. The 10 men sat around a table that had seen better days. Some of them knew each other. Most didn't. None of them looked like heroes from a story. General Morrison stood at the head of the table. She was old with gray hair and scars that told stories she never shared. She had spent 40 years in military intelligence, and she knew something the galaxy didn't. Earth's greatest strength wasn't its technology or its weapons. It was its people. Gentlemen, she began, you're here because you're the best at what you do. Not the best soldiers, not the best warriors. The best survivors. She pressed a button. A hologram appeared showing the Voidborn, the dark tendrils spreading through space like cancer. This thing has eaten 17 star systems, trillions of lives. The galaxy's combined military couldn't scratch it. They've given up. They're planning evacuations and praying for miracles. She paused. We're not here to pray. We're here to solve the problem. Marcus Chen spoke first. He was the Special Forces operative, a man who had spent 3 years behind enemy lines during the resource wars, surviving on nothing but skill and determination. What's the actual mission? They're not telling us to punch this thing to death, are they? No, Morrison said. Your mission is to find a way to stop it. How you do that is up to you. We're giving you tools, data, and a ship. The rest is your problem to solve. Why us? Asked Dr. Sarah Kim, the theoretical physicist. She was small, barely 5 feet tall, with thick glasses and hands that never stopped moving. I'm not a soldier. I work in a lab. Because soldiers follow orders, Morrison said. Scientists ask questions. This mission needs both. It needs people who can adapt, who can think outside the box, who don't break when the situation becomes impossible. James Rodriguez, the trauma surgeon, raised his hand. Define impossible. Because I've pulled bullets out of a man's brain while he was awake and talking. That was supposed to be impossible. This makes that look easy, Morrison admitted. You're going into the consumption zone. Every ship that's gone in has been destroyed. Your shields will fail. Your systems will fail. You might have days before the radiation kills you. Probably less. Cheerful, muttered David Park, the programmer. He was young, maybe 30, with tired eyes that came from too many all-nighters. So we're basically on a suicide mission. Yes, Morrison said bluntly. But suicide missions can still succeed. And if you succeed, you save the galaxy. 2 trillion lives. 20,000 worlds, everything. Father Miguel Torres crossed himself. He was the priest, a man who had served in war zones and disaster areas, who had given last rites to the dying more times than he could count. God asks us to do hard things. I suppose this qualifies. I'm not asking you to believe in God, Morrison said. I'm asking you to believe in each other. She pulled up files on each of them. Marcus Chen, 3 years alone in hostile territory. Survived on insects and rainwater. Walked 2,000 kilometers to friendly lines. Never gave up. Sarah Kim. Rewrote quantum theory at age 26. Published papers that won 3 Nobel Prizes. Sees solutions where others see impossibility. James Rodriguez. Performed surgery in a collapsing building during the Mexico City earthquake. Saved 37 lives while the floor was literally falling apart beneath him. Steady hand, steadier mind. She continued down the line. Thomas Wright, the deep-sea explorer who had gone to depths that should have crushed him. Ivan Volkov, the engineer who built a functioning fusion reactor from scrap metal and prayers. Dr. Lisa Chang, the psychologist who negotiated with terrorists and madmen. Alex Nakamura, the mountaineer who free-climbed peaks that killed better-equipped climbers. David Park, the programmer who cracked encryption systems that were supposed to be unbreakable. Frank Morrison, no relation to the general. The survival instructor who taught special forces how to endure hell. And Father Torres, the priest whose faith survived personal tragedies that would break most men. You're not here because you're heroes, the general said. You're here because you're survivors. Earth doesn't breed heroes. We breed people too stubborn to die. Marcus leaned back in his chair. What are we working with? Equipment-wise? Morrison pulled up another display. One modified frigate, the Prometheus. It's equipped with experimental stealth technology based on Sarah's quantum theories. Experimental weapons that the galaxy would call impossible. A quantum manipulation drive that technically shouldn't work. But it does work? Sarah asked, barely. It's unstable. Dangerous. Uses principles that make galactic physicists cry. But it works. Perfect, Sarah said, grinning. I love unstable. You'll have access to all the galaxy's data on the Voidborn, Morrison continued. Everything they've learned, which isn't much. You'll have medical supplies, weapons, and enough food for 6 months, though you won't last that long in the consumption zone. When do we leave? Thomas asked. 24 hours. We need to move fast. Every day the entity grows stronger. Ivan, the engineer, spoke up. His accent was thick, Russian mixed with English. What if we can't stop it? What if it's truly impossible? Morrison met his eyes. Then you make the impossible possible. That's what humans do. We went to the moon when it was impossible. We split the atom when it was impossible. We survived ice ages, plagues, and predators that should have wiped us out. We're still here because we don't accept impossible. The galaxy thinks we're primitive, Lisa said quietly. They think we're children playing with adults' toys. Let them think that, Morrison said. Underestimation is a weapon. They see primitive. We see adaptable. They see violent. We see determined. They see reckless. We see bold. Let them underestimate you. It'll make your job easier. Father Torres spoke again. What happens if we succeed? If we somehow stop this thing? Then you come home as the men who saved the galaxy, Morrison said. And if we don't? Then you die knowing you tried when everyone else had given up. That's not nothing. The room was quiet for a moment. Each man considered what they were being asked to do. Walk into certain death on the slim chance they could find a solution no one else had found. I'm in, Marcus said. Obviously, Sarah added. One by one, they all agreed. Not because they wanted to be heroes. Not because they thought it would be easy. But because someone had to try, and they were the ones who got the call. Morrison nodded. Good, you have 24 hours to settle your affairs. Say goodbye to loved ones if you have them. Write letters if you want. After that, you belong to the mission. She stood up. One more thing. The galaxy is watching. Earth is watching. But don't do this for them. Do it for each other. Do it because when you're in that consumption zone, when everything is falling apart, the only thing you'll have is the man standing next to you. We're going to die out there, aren't we? David said. Probably, Morrison admitted. But you'll die doing something that matters. You'll die trying to save everything. That's more than most people get. Inspiring, Alex said dryly. I'm not here to inspire you, Morrison said. I'm here to give you a mission. Inspiration you'll have to find yourselves. She left the room. The 10 men sat in silence for a moment. Then Marcus laughed. It was a tired sound. Well, this is going to suck. Agreed, James said. But we're doing it anyway, Sarah added. Of course we are, Ivan said. We're human. Doing stupid, impossible things is basically our species' hobby. They spent the next hour going over technical details. Sarah and David bonded over quantum computing theories. James and Frank discussed medical protocols for radiation exposure. Marcus and Alex compared notes on surviving in hostile environments. Ivan and Thomas talked about engineering challenges. Lisa observed them all, making mental notes about group dynamics. Father Torres simply listened, offering quiet words when someone seemed worried. They were 10 very different people, but they shared something important. They all understood that sometimes the only way forward was through, not around. Not over. Through. 24 hours later, they boarded the Prometheus. Earth's military band played. Families waved goodbye. Cameras recorded everything for the history books, but the 10 men barely noticed. They were already thinking ahead, already planning. The galaxy had sent millions of soldiers and failed. Earth was sending 10 specialists. The galaxy didn't understand yet. Soldiers fight battles, specialists solve problems, and the Voidborn was about to become humanity's problem to solve. The Prometheus was small compared to galactic warships. It was barely 200 meters long with a crew capacity designed for 15. For 10 men, it felt almost spacious, almost. The journey to the consumption zone took 6 days at maximum FTL speed. During that time, the team worked constantly. They studied the data the galaxy had provided, ran simulations, argued about theories, and slowly formed a plan. Or rather, the beginning of a plan. It doesn't make sense, Sarah said on the 3rd day. She was staring at holographic equations that filled the common room. The energy required to consume matter at this rate should collapse the entity into a singularity. But it's not collapsing. It's growing. Maybe it's feeding on something else, David suggested. He sat at his terminal, analyzing the code-like patterns they had found in the entity's movement. Look at these patterns. It's not random. There's structure here. Marcus was doing push-ups in the corner. He had to stay in shape even in space. So it's intelligent? Maybe. Or maybe it's programmed. Like a virus running code. James was inventorying their medical supplies. I've got enough radiation meds for maybe 3 days in the zone. After that, we're on borrowed time. We're already on borrowed time, Alex said. He was climbing the walls, literally. The ship's artificial gravity made it possible, and he needed to stay sharp. We've been on borrowed time since we agreed to this. Father Torres sat in the chapel. A small corner Ivan had helped convert from a storage space. It had a cross, a few candles, and silence. Borrowed time is still time, he said. We use it well, we might make a difference. Ivan was in the engine room making adjustments to their quantum drive. This thing is held together with wishes and calculations, he muttered. But it works. Somehow it works, Thomas joined him. The best equipment always feels like it shouldn't work. But that's engineering, making the impossible practical. Lisa watched them all. She was studying the team dynamics, making sure no one was cracking under the pressure. So far they were holding together well, better than she expected actually. These men had all faced death before. This was just another day at the office, albeit a really terrible office. On the 6th day, they reached the edge of the consumption zone, the area where ships started dying. Shields at maximum, Frank called from the pilot's seat. He wasn't the best pilot, but he was steady. That mattered more. Stealth systems active. If Sarah's theories are right, we should be invisible to the entity. Should be is doing a lot of work in that sentence, David muttered. Faith, my friend, Father Torres said. In science or God, both have their place. The Prometheus slipped into the zone. Immediately, alarms began sounding. The dark matter radiation was intense. It pressed against their shields like pressure at the bottom of the ocean. "Shields holding," Frank reported. "But they're draining fast. We've got maybe 20 hours at this rate." "Then we work fast," Marcus said. He was in command during operations, though they all had input. Earth's military had learned that rigid hierarchies could be a weakness. Flexibility was strength. Sarah, David, keep analyzing. Thomas, Ivan, keep the ship running. James, monitor everyone's health. Lisa, keep us sane. Alex, Father Torres, you're with me. We're going to get closer." "Closer?" Alex raised an eyebrow. "Closer to the thing that eats ships?" "Can't study it from far away." They moved deeper into the zone. The space outside their viewports was wrong. Stars were bent, light moved in strange patterns, and occasionally they saw ships, dead hulks floating in the void, half dissolved by the dark matter. "This is what killed the Galactic fleet," Marcus said quietly. 10 million ships, all gone. "We're not going to end up like them," Alex said. "No," Marcus agreed. "We're going to get closer than they ever did." And they did. The Prometheus crept toward the entity's core, using stealth technology that bent quantum probability. To the universe, they barely existed. To the Voidborn, they should have been invisible. Should have been. On the 8th hour, they saw it. The core. It was massive, a swirling darkness that hurt to look at. Tendrils extended from it in all directions, reaching out to consume everything they touched. "My God," Father Torres whispered. "Readings are off the charts," Sarah called from the common room. "This thing it's breaking physics, or rewriting it. I can't tell which. Can you get a sample?" Marcus asked. "A sample of that? We need to understand what it's made of." Thomas and Ivan looked at each other. "We can build a collection drone," Ivan said. "Small, fast, expendable. Send it in, grab a sample, bring it back before it dissolves." "Do it," Marcus ordered. They worked for 3 hours, building the drone from spare parts and hope. It was crude, barely functional, but it would work. "Probably." "Launching," Thomas said. The drone shot out from the Prometheus, streaking toward the nearest tendril. It was fast, faster than anything the galaxy had tried. It reached the tendril, extended its collection arm, grabbed a chunk of the dark matter and turned back. It made it halfway before the tendril reacted. The dark matter surged, reaching for the drone like a hand grabbing at an insect. "Come on," Ivan muttered. "Come on, little one." The drone hit maximum speed. The tendril was gaining. For a moment, it looked like they would lose both the drone and the sample. Then Alex did something crazy. He fired the Prometheus's weapons. Not at the tendril, at the space between the drone and the tendril. The experimental weapon tore a hole in reality itself just for a second. The drone slipped through. The tendril slammed into normal space. "Got it," Thomas yelled as the drone returned to the ship. They brought the sample into their makeshift lab. Sarah and David immediately began analysis. The rest of the team watched, holding their breath. "This is incredible," Sarah said after an hour. "This isn't just dark matter. It's programmable matter. Matter with instructions written into its quantum structure." "Instructions to do what?" Marcus asked. "To consume. To search, to delete." "Delete what?" David pulled up his findings. "Remember those patterns I found? They're everywhere in this thing. It's looking for something. A specific quantum signature. What signature? I don't know. But whatever it is, the entity is programmed to find it and erase it. Everything else is just collateral damage," Lisa spoke up. "So it's not evil. It's not trying to destroy the galaxy. It's trying to complete a task. A task that involves eating everything," James pointed out. "Still a task, though, which means it can be redirected. Or stopped. Or tricked." Sarah and David looked at each other. The same thought occurred to both of them. "We can fake the signature," Sarah said. "Create a false signal," David added. "Make it think it found what it's looking for. Lead it away from the galaxy." Marcus held up his hand. "Slow down. Explain in simple terms." Sarah took a breath. "The entity is looking for something specific. Like a bloodhound following a scent. We can create a false scent, a bigger one, and make it chase that instead. Can we do that? Maybe. If we had enough power, the right equipment, and a way to place the signal at the exact point the entity is searching." "How much power?" "All of it. Every reactor on the ship. And even then, it would only work if we placed the beacon at the convergence point." "Where's that?" David pulled up a map. "A single point, deep in the heart of the consumption zone. There, right in the middle of the worst radiation. A ship would last maybe an hour there. The room went quiet. So we build a beacon, Marcus said slowly. We take it to the convergence point. We activate it. The entity goes after it instead of the galaxy. Yes, Sarah said. What happens to whoever takes it there? She didn't answer. She didn't have to. They die, Father Torres said quietly. That's what you're not saying. Whoever places that beacon dies. Yes, Sarah admitted. Marcus nodded. Then we make sure it works. Because if someone's going to die, they better die doing something that actually saves the galaxy. They spent the next hours planning. Sarah and David worked on the beacon design. Ivan and Thomas figured out how to build it. James calculated how long a human could survive at the convergence point. Lisa helped everyone process what they were preparing to do. Alex sat with Father Torres in the chapel. You believe we can do this? Alex asked. I believe God doesn't give us challenges we can't handle, Torres said. Even if it kills us? Especially then. Death isn't the worst thing that can happen to a person. Living without purpose is worse. Alex was quiet for a moment. I'm not religious. You don't have to be. Faith comes in many forms. You have faith in your team. That's enough. By the 12th hour, they had a plan. It was crazy. It was dangerous. It probably wouldn't work. But it was humanity's answer to the impossible, and that meant it had a chance. Building the beacon will take 40 hours, Sarah announced to the group. Testing it another 12. After that, someone needs to take it to the convergence point. Someone's, Marcus corrected. That's not a one-person job. 3, James said. A pilot, an engineer, and someone to arm the device. 3 people can do it. More would be wasted. The 10 men looked at each other. They all knew what was coming next. The question they had been avoiding since they left Earth. Who was going to die? No one slept that night. Sleep felt wrong when they were planning who would die. The beacon took shape over 46 hours. Sarah and David barely left their stations, working through exhaustion and radiation sickness that was starting to affect them all. The math had to be perfect. One wrong calculation and the beacon would fail, or worse, attract the entity to their position before they were ready. Ivan and Thomas built the physical device. It looked simple. A cylinder about 2 meters long covered in cooling systems and quantum processors. But inside, it was the most complex machine humanity had ever created. It would generate a quantum signature so powerful that the Voidborn would think it had found the source of everything it was searching for. It's a bomb, Ivan said, looking at their creation. Not explosive, but a bomb nonetheless. A quantum bomb that rewrites reality in a small space. Will it work? Thomas asked. On paper? Yes, in practice. Ivan shrugged. We're doing something that should be impossible. But humans are good at impossible. While they built, Marcus organized the suicide run, because that's what it was. A run into the heart of the entity's territory with no escape plan. It needs 3 people, he said during a meeting. A pilot to fly the shuttle, an engineer to maintain systems as they fail, a soldier to arm the device. I'll pilot, Frank said immediately. I can handle the engineering, Thomas offered. Marcus nodded. Then I'll arm it. No, Alex said. You're in command. If something goes wrong, the others need you here. I'll go. This isn't a climbing expedition, Marcus said. No, but it requires someone who stays calm when everything is falling apart. That's what I do. I climb impossible faces, I stay calm. They argued for an hour. Finally, Father Torres spoke up. I'll go. Everyone turned to look at him. Father, with respect, you're not trained for combat operations, Marcus said gently. No. But I'm trained for this, for being with people in their final moments, for keeping faith when everything seems hopeless, he smiled. Besides, if we're doing something this crazy, we might need divine intervention. I can provide that. This is not a joke, Marcus said. I'm not joking. I'm volunteering. Someone has to arm that device. Someone has to make sure it activates properly. I can do that. And if we're about to die, I'd like to be there. It's my calling. Marcus looked at the others. They were all thinking the same thing. The priest was right. This wasn't just a combat mission. It was a mission that required faith, the kind that kept you moving when your body wanted to give up. All right, Marcus said finally. Frank pilots. Thomas handles engineering. Father Torres arms the device. The 3 men nodded. No one celebrated. There was nothing to celebrate. They had just chosen who would die. Sarah and David finished the calculations on hour 53. They looked terrible, gray-faced, and shaking from radiation exposure. James gave them medication that helped, but they were all running out of time. The Prometheus's shields were at 30%. They had maybe 20 hours left before the ship started falling apart. "The beacon is ready," Sarah announced. "We just need to install it in a shuttle and go." "How long will the activation take?" Marcus asked. 15 minutes from start to finish, David said. "It has to sync with the entity's quantum frequency. Any shorter and it won't work. Any longer and the radiation will kill everyone in the shuttle." "They'll already be dead by then," James said quietly. "Radiation at the convergence point is lethal within 10 minutes. Even with protective suits." Father Torres crossed himself. "Then I suppose we'll be meeting our maker a bit earlier than planned." They loaded the beacon into the shuttle. It was a small craft designed for short-range travel. It had minimal shields and basic life support, enough to get them to the convergence point, not enough to get them back. The team gathered in the shuttle bay. Frank, Thomas, and Father Torres stood in their radiation suits. The suits were white, bulky, and covered in sensors. They would provide maybe an extra 5 minutes of protection. Maybe. "I should say something inspiring," Marcus said, "but I'm not good with words." "Then say nothing," Frank replied. "We know what we're doing. We know why we're doing it." "That's enough," Lisa stepped forward. "You're the bravest people I've ever met." "Not brave," Thomas said. "Just willing." "There's a difference." Sarah was crying. She had worked with these men for weeks, arguing about theories and possibilities. Now 3 of them were leaving forever. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry we couldn't find another way." "Don't be sorry," Father Torres said. "You found a way. That's what matters. We're just providing the delivery service." Ivan shook each of their hands. "In Russia we have saying, 'A man dies once, a coward dies 1,000 times.'" "You are not cowards." David handed them a data pad. "I programmed in the activation sequence. It's automated. You just need to press this button when you reach the convergence point. The beacon will do the rest." "What if it doesn't work?" Frank asked. "Then we're all dead anyway. At least you'll die trying." Alex gave them a small smile. "I've climbed mountains where one wrong move meant death. This is the same. Except you're climbing for everyone." James checked their medical readings one last time. "Your vitals are good. The radiation meds will help. But past the 10-minute mark?" He didn't finish. He didn't need to. Marcus stood at attention. "You're doing this for 2 trillion lives. For 20,000 worlds. For everyone who ever lived and everyone who ever will. The galaxy will remember you. Earth will remember you. We will remember you." Father Torres smiled. "Remember us as men who did their jobs." Nothing more. They boarded the shuttle. The door closed. Through the viewport they could see the others watching. Then the shuttle launched, disappearing into the darkness. On the Prometheus, the remaining 7 watched the shuttle's signal on their screens. It moved toward the convergence point, getting smaller and smaller. "How long?" Marcus asked quietly. 2 hours to reach the point, Sarah said. "Then 15 minutes for activation. After that," she stopped. "After that, the 3 men would be dead, and the beacon would either work or it wouldn't." They waited. 2 hours felt like 2 years. They monitored the shuttle's progress, watching as it penetrated deeper into the consumption zone. The radiation readings climbed higher and higher. Inside the shuttle, Frank piloted with steady hands. The controls were becoming sluggish. Systems were failing one by one, but he kept them on course. Thomas sat at the engineering station, rerouting power, bypassing failed systems, keeping them alive just a little bit longer. Father Torres sat with the beacon, his hands resting on the activation panel. He prayed quietly, not for himself but for the others, for the 7 men on the Prometheus, for the trillions of lives in the galaxy, for humanity, which had sent 10 men to do the impossible. 10 minutes to convergence point, Frank announced. His voice was calm despite everything. "Systems are critical," Thomas said. "We'll make it, but we won't have power to get back." "Not that we plan to. No regrets?" Father Torres asked. "None," Frank said. "I have one," Thomas admitted. "I wish I could see if this works." "Have faith," Torres said, smiling. They reached the convergence point. The radiation was unbearable. Even through the suits and the shuttle's remaining shields, they could feel it. Like fire in their veins. Like acid in their lungs. "Beginning activation," Father Torres said. He pressed the button. The beacon hummed to life. Numbers counted down on the display. 15 minutes, we did it, Frank said. We actually got here. Now we wait, Thomas said. They sat together in the failing shuttle, 3 men surrounded by darkness. Frank told a story about his daughter's first words. Thomas talked about building his first engine. Father Torres led them in prayer, not because they asked, but because it felt right. At the 10-minute mark, the radiation began killing them. It wasn't dramatic. No explosions or pain, just systems shutting down, their bodies giving up. I can't feel my hands, Frank said. That's the nerve damage, Thomas replied. His voice was weak. Won't be long now. Father Torres looked at the beacon. 5 minutes left. They just had to survive 5 more minutes. He prayed harder. On the Prometheus, they watched the readings. They saw the life signs fading. They saw the beacon activating. They saw 3 men dying. Come on, Sarah whispered. Please work, please. The beacon hit 0. It activated fully, sending out a quantum signal so powerful it registered on every sensor in the galaxy. The false signature bloomed like a supernova calling to the Voidborn, and the entity responded. The tendrils turned. All of them. They stopped spreading toward inhabited systems. They changed direction, moving toward the convergence point, toward the beacon, toward the signal they had been searching for since the beginning of time. The Voidborn converged on the beacon with its full mass. The dark matter surrounded it, embracing it, trying to consume the source of the signature, and the trap sprung. The beacon didn't just create a signal. It created a quantum loop, a recursive probability field. When the Voidborn touched it, the entity became trapped in its own search, forever reaching for something it could never quite grasp, locked in a pocket dimension where it would chase the signal for eternity. The tendrils disappeared. The darkness pulled back. The entity was gone, sealed away. The galaxy was saved. On the Prometheus, alarms turned to silence. The radiation levels dropped. The danger passed. It worked, David said, his voice full of disbelief. It actually worked. Marcus closed his eyes. At the cost of 3 men. 3 men who saved trillions, Lisa said. The final tray. The journey back to Zentara Prime took 8 days. The Prometheus limped along on damaged systems and failing shields. The 7 survivors barely spoke. They were alive, but they didn't feel like celebrating. James spent most of his time in the medical bay treating their radiation sickness. They were all dying, just slowly. Too much exposure in the consumption zone. They might have months left, maybe a year if they were lucky. We'll get you proper treatment when we reach the station, he told the others. But they all heard the doubt in his voice. Radiation damage like this was hard to reverse, even with galactic medicine. Sarah and David archived all their data. Every reading, every calculation, every measurement they had taken. Humanity's knowledge of quantum physics had advanced by decades in just a few weeks. But the cost of that knowledge was 3 lives. I keep running the numbers, Sarah said, looking for a way we could have done it differently. A way where everyone survives, and, David asked, and there wasn't one. The math doesn't lie. 3 people had to die. It's just, she stopped, wiping her eyes. It's just that knowing it was necessary doesn't make it hurt less. Marcus stood in the shuttle bay looking at the empty space where the shuttle had been. He was the commander. He had made the decisions. 3 men under his command were dead. That weight would never leave him. You did what you had to do, Alex said, joining him. They volunteered. They knew what they were getting into. That's supposed to make me feel better. No, nothing will make you feel better. But they didn't die for nothing. Remember that. Ivan and Thomas worked on keeping the ship functional. Every day something new broke down. They fixed it with spare parts and ingenuity, the way humans had been fixing things for thousands of years. This ship shouldn't be working, Thomas said. Many things shouldn't work but do, Ivan replied. Like us, we shouldn't have survived. But we did. 3 of us didn't. 3 of us saved everyone else. There are worse ways to die, Lisa wrote in her journal, documenting everything. The mission. The people. The choices they made. Someday, someone would want to know what happened. Someone would ask how 10 humans succeeded where the galaxy's billions failed. She knew the answer now. It wasn't that humans were smarter or stronger. It was that humans understood sacrifice. Every species in the galaxy valued life. But humans understood that sometimes to save many lives, a few must be lost, and they were willing to be those few. On the 8th day, they reached Zentara Prime. The Council had been notified of their success. When the Prometheus emerged from FTL, they found something unexpected. Ships, thousands of them, warships and civilian craft from every species in the galaxy. They had gathered to witness the return of Earth's 10 men. "What is this?" Marcus asked. "A welcome," Sarah said quietly. "Or maybe a thank you." The Council had prepared a ceremony. When the 7 men disembarked, they were greeted by Chancellor Vexlar himself. The massive chamber was filled to capacity. Every species, every world represented. "You did what we could not," the Chancellor said. His voice carried through the chamber. "You went where we feared to go. You faced what we could not comprehend, and you saved us all." Marcus stepped forward. He looked tired, sick, and human. So very human. "We lost 3 men, we know. The galaxy mourns them. Their names will be remembered forever. Frank Morrison, Thomas Wright, Father Miguel Torres, heroes who gave everything." "They weren't heroes," Marcus said. "They were just men doing their jobs." "No," the Thoraxian war leader stood. "The same one who had mocked them weeks ago. They were heroes. And so are you. We were wrong about humanity. We thought you were primitive. We thought you had nothing to offer. We were fools." The crystalline collective speaker chimed in agreement. "You showed us what we had forgotten. That survival sometimes requires sacrifice. That impossible is just another problem to solve. That new eyes can see solutions old eyes miss." "The Council offers Earth full membership," Vexlar announced, "and we offer humanity leadership of our defensive forces. You have proven you can face threats we cannot." Ambassador Chen, who had been watching from the gallery, felt tears in her eyes. They had done it. 10 men had changed everything, but Marcus shook his head. "We decline the military position." The chamber went silent. "You decline?" Vexlar asked, confused. "Yes. Earth didn't save the galaxy because we wanted power or recognition. We did it because someone had to, because it was the right thing to do. We'll accept full membership. We'll share our knowledge. We'll help defend against future threats. But we don't want to rule your military. We're not conquerors. We're survivors," the war leader laughed. It was a respectful sound. "You refuse power when it's offered? Perhaps you humans are wiser than we thought?" "Not wiser," Marcus said. "Just practical. Power corrupts. We've seen it on our own world. We don't need that burden." The Council accepted this. They created a memorial for the 3 who died. A monument on Zentara Prime, visible from orbit. 3 names carved in every language in the galaxy. A reminder of what was lost to save everything else. The 7 survivors received medical treatment. Galactic medicine was advanced, but even it had limits. The radiation damage was severe. They would survive, but they would never fully recover. They would carry the scars forever. Earth welcomed them home as heroes. There were parades, medals, speeches. But the 7 men avoided most of it. They attended one ceremony where they stood before a different memorial. One Earth built for Frank, Thomas, and Father Torres. "They should be here," Sarah said. "They are," Lisa replied. "In everything we do. Every time we face something impossible, they're with us. The world wanted to know everything. How did they do it? What was the secret? How did 10 humans succeed where the galaxy failed?" Marcus gave one interview. Just one. A young reporter asked him the question everyone wanted answered. "What made the difference? Why did your mission work?" Marcus thought for a long time. Then he said, "Because we're human. We've been fighting impossible odds since we lived in caves. We faced ice ages, predators, diseases, and each other. We survived not because we were the strongest or the smartest. We survived because we never gave up. Because when things got dark, we adapted. When others said it couldn't be done, we found a way. That's what humans do. But 3 of you died. Yes, and that's part of being human too. We understand that some things are worth dying for. Saving 2 trillion lives? That's worth 3 lives. It's simple math. Do you think there will be other threats? Other impossible situations?" Marcus smiled grimly. "Definitely. The universe is dangerous. There will always be something trying to kill us, to destroy us, to tell us we can't survive. And every time humanity will find a way. Because that's what we do." The interview ended. Marcus returned to his life. They all did. They were just people, after all. They had jobs, families, lives to live. But Earth's government started a new program. Protocol Prometheus became permanent. They began training more teams, more specialists. People who could think creatively, who could survive the unsurvivable, who could solve problems that shouldn't have solutions. because Marcus was right. There would be other threats, other impossible situations, and when they came, Earth would be ready. Ambassador Chen returned to the council 6 months later. She had a new proposal. Earth would establish an academy, training people from all species in human survival techniques. Not to make them into humans, but to teach them what humanity had learned over millions of years of struggling against the odds. We want to share what we know, she told the council. Our methods, our thinking, our approach to problems. Not because we think we're better, but because diversity makes us stronger. The galaxy has ancient wisdom. Earth has practical experience. Together we might face the next threat better. The council agreed. The academy opened on a neutral station, staffed by human instructors and attended by students from across the galaxy. They learned about human history, human psychology, human stubbornness. They learned that sometimes the old ways don't work and new approaches are needed. Years passed. The galaxy recovered from the void-born crisis. Systems were rebuilt. Populations grew. Life continued. The 7 survivors lived quiet lives. Sarah taught at universities. David worked on quantum computing. Marcus trained special forces units. James practiced medicine. Yvonne built things. Lisa counseled trauma survivors. Alex climbed mountains, though he never quite reached the heights he once did. They stayed in touch. Once a year, they gathered at the memorial for Frank, Thomas, and Father Torres. They didn't talk much during these meetings. They just stood together, remembering. On the 10th anniversary of the mission, they gathered again. But this time, something was different. Ambassador Chen was there. She had news. There's another threat, she said. Something new. The council is panicking again. The 7 men looked at each other. They were older now, slower, still damaged from the radiation, but their eyes were clear. What kind of threat? Marcus asked. An artificial intelligence from before the current galaxy existed. It's awakening in the dark space between galaxies. Early reports say it's hostile. And the council wants Earth's help? They're asking for 10 men. Marcus smiled. It was a tired,